Greetings everyone! My name is FFVII and I welcome you to my new video in the series Game Analysis. At Sony's latest State of Play stream on the 9th of May 2019, a new short and very unexpected trailer of Final Fantasy VII Remake dropped at the very end. Of course, this has to happen when I'm in the middle of another video. Damn you, Nomura! But seriously, I was happy like a rabbit chewing on a huge juicy carrot when I saw notifications for reaction videos on my device the morning after. And that's why I'm putting my current project on hold to get this analysis out before the next trailer in June. It sucks, but this trailer has priority now. I've already watched and read several analyses before and while creating this video, which is why not all the findings in this analysis are mine alone. Credits go to the Night Sky Prince, Mike and Kasten from the Resonant Arc channel, as well as Chip Noir, Shadamp, Lex, Force Stealer, and all the other awesome folks from the Livestream.net community. For those who don't know, the Livestream.net is a fan site dedicated to bringing you Final Fantasy VII news and extensive in-depth information about the game's universe and beyond. You can find their website in the description down below. That being said, even though there are already many good analyses out there, I believe I'm able to supplement them with more details and additional information which has not been covered yet. Like last time, I decided to go through the content first, which encompasses scenes, characters, enemies, locations and other findings, while the battle system and UI analysis will be tackled in a separate video. The reason for this split is mainly to make this analysis more coherent and digestible. So let's not lose any more time with introductory blabbering and jump right into it. Right at the start of the State of Play stream, we can hear the familiar Final Fantasy VII confirmation sound, teasing its appearance later in the presentation. I bet everyone expected them to start off with the remake trailer, but the first game turned out to be a Monster Hunter expansion, leaving fans on the edge of their seat through the whole thing. But lo and behold, there's a mystery title they saved for the end. And our prayers have been answered. The second State of Play stream treats us with a new glimpse on our long-awaited title. The very first thing that appears is some text in the same look as the one from the PSX 2015 trailer. It says, "The return draws closer," and is most likely an allusion to either the long-promised huge blowout at some event, or the release of the first game is not too far off. Or both. Right away, we're introduced to Aerith. She's the first person we see in the opening cinematic of the original game, so it only makes sense to introduce her in a similar fashion at the very start of the trailer. The camera movement is different, however, maybe for facilitating a better Aerith reveal for the trailer. Kitase-san was talking about changing the iconic camera movement of the intro sequence to present it in a new way, and this looks like one of those changes. The alleyway looks way more detailed, but there's too little to see for a real analysis. The Mako leakage looks nice though. Another difference to all other versions of the scene are her eyes, which are closed this time around. There are more details on her jacket, such as additional buttons, but the huge shoulder pads are gone, like in every other media since the original. Instead, she got herself some golden rivets on the shoulder piece, probably to put emphasis on her tomboyish nature. Hairstyle is accurate, but with less over-the-top bangs, very similar to other high-definition versions. Her choker, however, looks very different. Instead of a simple ribbon knot, there's a forget-me-not holding the leather strings together. Very fitting considering her fate and her significance afterwards. Her pink dress looks still the same, with the buttoned-up front slit all the way down. And she's very, very pretty, though I'm not sure if this is pre-rendered or real-time. The next scene shows the start of the very first battle encounter. In this shot, we see that the entrance to the station building has changed significantly from the last trailer. There's an additional metal construction for one. The background also shows some differences. 2 red lights instead of only 1, an additional floodlight in the back, and a more detailed fence than seen in previous iterations, which also extends all the way up to the edge of the platform. The yellow-black striped cross sign remains, however. It seems that those 2 floodlights from the PSX 2015 trailer have been removed. The floodlight in the back seems to be the only strong light source in the closer area. When checking the end of the scene, it's the same thing. No light source visible above the building entrance. Now let's have a look at the redesigned Shinra MPs. They now present way more details than the PSX 2015 trailer did. There's the mostly white helmet with the additional jaw protection, White double-layered shoulder pauldrons with the Shinra logo and more details in general, consisting of some hard plastic material, hand and arm protections made out of the same white material, additional pockets on the jacket below the belt, and more details in general. Is this the new design for all of the Shinra infantry or just for certain types of MPs? Will the infantrymen circling Cloud in Sector 8 receive the same redesign, or just the train station guards? As an interesting side note, this new design has probably been in place since before the Magic 2017 screenshots. By looking closely, we can already somewhat see those new details on the shooting MP. You may have missed it, but you can see Wedge hiding behind the entrance construction. I think this is brilliant, because it shows Avalanche does have some strategy going on. The last part of this scene describes a smooth transition from the arrival cutscene to gameplay and battle, using a circular camera sweep similar to Kingdom Hearts 3's transition to gameplay. The very first battle probably starts immediately after. Here we can already see a green materia in one of the 2 slots the Buster Sword provides. Awesome! However, Cloud is supposed to have 2 green materia equipped during the bombing mission. They either changed and rebalanced that for the remake, or it's a change exclusive to the current test build. Not to be nitpicky, but the Buster Sword clips into Cloud's shoulder. But this is just a minor complaint, since you don't really notice it in normal playback speed. Like in the original, they completely ignore Barret while running towards Cloud. If you look closely, you can see Jesse and Biggs sneaking into the station building in the background. Additionally, we can also see one of the incapacitated guards on the ground near the train. Now, let's compare the train platform to the version of the PSX trailer. The platform and the train look pretty much the same. The State of Play trailer looks a bit blurry, so we might be missing a few details. Although the white and orange caution lines are narrower and painted closer to each other. Let's move ahead in time a bit to the Guard Scorpion boss battle. Here, it starts shooting a barrage of missiles, which we already caught a glimpse of in the second Magic 2017 screenshot. This missile silo is located to the right of the radar device on its back, from its point of view, not ours. In the next shot, it shoots 8 missiles, though one smoke trail looks different and goes off in another direction, so effectively 7, which seems asymmetrical given the maximum number of 3 missiles the right silo can hold. This missile attack looks very similar to the enemy skill Matra Magic used by the following enemies in the original game: Custom Sweeper in the Calm area, Bull Motor in the Coral Prison, and Death Machine in Junon. Here, Guard Scorpion uses less missiles however, which is weird, since the second Magic 2017 screenshot showed way more missiles, 16 to be exact, though I think this seemingly scripted sequence should be taken as its own thing. The same attack during the battle will probably yield more units as seen in the screenshot. To further elaborate on this scene, it clearly takes place within the boss battle, as the battle HUD is still visible. As mentioned, this looks like a scripted attack sequence probably triggered after Guard Scorpion loses a certain amount of HP. At the end of the scene, the missiles crash into the ceiling and explode, sending numerous metal strut debris downward, possibly changing up the battlefield, which sounds very intriguing. Changing up fighting and movement conditions mid-battle certainly creates a memorable confrontation. I hope every boss encounter contains such an element to a certain extent. As for the Guard Scorpion's exact location, I believe it sits on the wall to the right when looking from Cloud's and Barret's position in front of the pressure control unit. A great indicator is the Mako Basin at the bottom of this shot. Wait a minute. Hang on, are there traversable platforms, walkways, stairs and a ladder cheekily hiding around the edges of this shot? It seems there's a normal service path down to the bottom in contrast to the original's pipe traversal. I suppose all those elements will be broken and destroyed after the battle, which forces us to take another route during our escape. Keep this in mind for later. For now, let's move on to the next scene. And now we jump back to North Edge Station. I will give the reason as to why I think this to be the case shortly. But first, let's have a look at this sneaky hair tonic ad. Underneath the title, it reads Ideal Scalp Care. The product itself looks nothing special, though the 3 different bottles of the same product line on the bottom right suggest different application purposes, such as shampoo, conditioner and hairspray. While this sounds very mundane, I do have some interesting trivia for you. This ad is possibly a reference to the first email received after joining the Silver Elite fan club in Crisis Core, which reads, Dear member of the Silver Elite, in this update we present another piece of Sephiroth trivia. The secret to his beautiful long hair. The hair products he uses are of highest grade, made and supplied by the Shinra company. He seems to use one whole bottle of both shampoo and conditioner every time he washes his hair. They are scented with 13 kinds of perfumes, including rose and vanilla. Apparently, the scent in the air after Sephiroth tosses his hair changes daily. Coincidence? I think not. We haven't even passed 10 minutes of gameplay by now, and there's already a very subtle foreshadowing for Sephiroth. Nice one! Let's move on to the next thing, the turnstiles, which are pretty old school passenger barriers in train stations. This is an indicator for them staying true to the less modern world of the original Final Fantasy VII. Now let's briefly mention Wedge. Poor guy can hardly be seen in this trailer. I suppose they don't have his design finalized yet, or they want to showcase him in the next presentation. And here we get to see Biggs's weapon much better than in the previous trailer. My knowledge of guns is very limited, so I have no idea what model that one is, but it looks modified. He bandaged the handle for a better grip. Maybe it's just a blur and subpar image quality, but I don't see Biggs's earring anymore, though it's probably just due to video compression. Design-wise, I don't see any changes. At least we can sort of compare his back to the one shown in the art gallery artwork. As promised, I'll now go over several hints for this being North Edge Station in Sector 1, where the bombing mission starts. First off, there are the stairs to the upper floor and exit in the background. We can also see a blurry train line plan. The timetables also have some hints for us. There's a blurry one in the background and another one hanging from the ceiling, which contains the following information. Platform numbers 1 and 2, kanji for express train in red and local train in green, departure times, line designations and the respective line terminus. Let's break this down. The departure times suggest it is currently around 1 AM, as the Japanese usually use the 24-hour system and Avalanche certainly wouldn't go through with the bombing mission during the day. The line designations are also very Japanese. KL stands for the line itself and the number represents the station number on that line. North Edge Station seems to be the terminus. Sector 8 lies directly next to it as the second station on the line, and Sector 5 marks the 12th station. In Japan, each station on the line is numbered from 1 through whatever is the other terminus. For example, G19 is the 19th and last station on the Ginza line. What KL stands for though, I have no idea. King's Landing? Wait, wrong story. What confuses me, however, is that the Nexpress line stops in Sector 8 at the second station of the KL line, while the local train goes all the way to Sector 5, marking the 12th station. Maybe North Edge Station isn't the terminus and lies somewhere in between? I don't know. I'll leave this one to you, since I've got loads more to cover. As for the orientation of this section, I believe that the entrance from the platform lies in the direction where Barrett just came from, which means that after climbing the stairs in the background, they have to make a U-turn to exit the station to the upper section. So instead of a fade to black transition from the lower entrance to the upper exit, we get to actually traverse the train station. And considering we get to see so many segments which were skipped using such a fade to black teleportation between screens, we're in for a real treat. To cover all the bases, are there any other train stations this scene could represent? There's really only one I can think of, and that's the Sector 7 slum station. However, that one would be a huge departure from the original design. There's no building, no turnstiles, no stairs, no nothing. Just one platform and one conductor. Replacing that with a full-fledged train station building would violate the aesthetics and atmosphere in my opinion. As one last point, the brick wall design of the interior looks exactly the same as the one on the outside as seen in the scene where the Shinra MPs charge at Cloud. Okay, this rounds up the location analysis. Back to the characters. We finally get a good view on Jessie's back and her weapon, which looks like some sort of an Uzi. As with Biggs, there's practically no change in her design, at least from this perspective, and looks very similar to her art gallery artwork design. The front view, however, is a completely different story. Her face received a very nice redesign. Fun fact, Roberto Ferrari's design for Jessie was heavily influenced by his wife's appearance. While her armor hasn't changed, they replaced the fishnet layer underneath with a much sturdier looking shirt, which keeps her armor from scratching her skin. It looks almost like a lightweight chainmail. A great and functional improvement. Lastly, check out this beautifully smooth ponytail animation. For the next part, we jump forward in time again to the aftermath of the Guard Scorpion boss battle. The environment has suffered quite a bit from destruction as a result from said battle. Compared to the original render, the Mako liquid at the bottom of this room is much closer to the catwalk. At least the back wall with the main exit doorway and the service ladder look very faithful. However, many details from the PSX 2015 trailer, such as additional pipes, seem to be missing. Wait, I think I know what's going on. The walkway during the Guard Scorpion segments in the PSX 2015 trailer must either be much higher up in the same room, or in a different room altogether, compared to the walkway in this trailer. Both ends of the respective walkway look completely different, and there is no Mako liquid visible in the PSX 2015 trailer, nor in the second Magic 2017 screenshot. One option could be that we confront the guard scorpion in an earlier room and it then appears after placing a bomb in the other room. The other option has the confrontation start higher up in the same room. After damaging the guard scorpion enough, it is incapacitated and the player can then proceed the way downward to plant the bomb. At which point the guard scorpion catches up and the second part of the battle begins. Or the version from the PSX 2015 trailer got scrapped and completely reworked for this build of the game. Occam's razor. A very familiar sight is the countdown display, which looks very similar to the original, just in blue instead of purple. It retains the old school look where we can see all other possible numbers, just not illuminated. Additionally, the countdown presumably starts at 20 minutes compared to the mere 10 in the original game. This has been done most likely to account for longer traversal times through the updated level design. Let's go over some smaller details. There are some weird flickering rectangular lights on the back wall, but that's probably just a graphical glitch. We can also spot several lamps with open wires affixed to the railing on the sides, one of which has this weird caution sign affixed to it. I speculate that it may be related to Mako poisoning as a parallel to Biohazard. Lastly, the Buster Sword has still only one green materia equipped, which is logical since we don't get to enter the materia menu until later, where Cloud explains the materia system to Barret right before setting off to the second bombing mission. This single materia can also be seen in the next scene. Here we witness more environmental traversal. This time, Cloud is moving along, hand over hand, hanging from one of the brown pipes also seen in the original render. This tells me we're still in the core reactor room. According to the timer, only 1 minute and 17 seconds have passed since the last scene, which corroborates that sentiment when accounting for ladder and hanging traversal from down below to Cloud's current location. However, the level layout has been changed drastically, it seems. For one, the platform below Cloud doesn't exist in the original layout. Now, remember how I told you those new platforms from an earlier scene will come up again? Well, this platform is one of them. You don't believe me? Check this out. This is hard evidence that the environment does change after the battle against Guard Scorpion and now presents a different route back up and back outside due to destroyed traversal elements. There's the now missing ladder to the lower level, and we can just barely see the upper platform hanging down where it once was connected to the stairs. Maybe I'm a bit paranoid, but through the grating floor of the platform below, I see these red things. They don't look like pipes, and in one of those earlier scenes, Guard Scorpion was hanging onto that wall below at possibly the same location. Those red limbs don't move an inch, however, so I'm not sure what to believe. I guess we'll see. Flash forward an hour or two and we find ourselves in the railroad tunnel after jumping out of the train on our way to reactor number 5. The general design and layout are the same, but all other details apart from the strut between the two railroads seem different. There was also never an open area with a high ceiling like this one. Another change is the parallel railroad behind the fence. We can even see a train passing by there. As in the original, we're battling our way through the tunnel. The enemies here seem to be either completely new ones or variations of the metal saucer from Crisis Core. Due to dynamic joints and small jet engines on their legs, this agile enemy enjoys more freedom of movement as seen here. More on that in the next video. As in the previous trailer, we get to see a scene where the player controls Barret. Speaking of which, he seems to have a different storage pocket strapped around his right leg, 2 small ones instead of 1 big one. The rest of his outfit looks pretty much the same, with the exception of the cloth covering the seam separating Barret's real arm from the attached machine gun. In the previous trailer, it looked like much sturdier material. Now it's made of a simple, wrinkly cloth. At least they kept the belt holding it in place. When looking around this area, we see more details lying around, like pylons, huge cable spools and some yellow-black striped metal barrier rods, among other things. Another neat little detail is how Barret's Gatling gun visibly overheats at the muzzles when he finishes his combo. We can also see Cloud slowly walking and blocking at the same time in the background. There's also a sneaky keep out graffiti sprayed onto the wall piece where the tunnel starts. However, it doesn't seem to exist in the original renders. The signal on the first middle pillar is set to green. Is there a possibility of a train passing by on one of the railroads where the battles take place? This would be frightening and dangerous. In the next shot, Cloud performs a new version of his signature Braver attack, which now includes a somersault to increase impact. His current target looks like a camouflaged version of the MP assaulting Cloud on the platform at North Edge Station. The underwater MP from the original game looks the closest to this one. It's curious that those appear this early in the game already. Probably just to bring a little variation into the enemy design. Before moving on, I'd like to bring up materia again. Unfortunately, we don't see one equipped on Barrett's Gatling gun. At first I thought this little dot looks like one, but it's too small and has no color. It's also interesting that Cloud doesn't have any materia equipped here. They probably removed them for testing or footage recording purposes. That's about everything I can glean from this part without delving into battle and UI stuff. So let's move on to the next scene. This segment covers a small fragment of the scene after Jesse blows up the barricaded exit door and before the group splits up to make a run for the last train back to Sector 7. Another clear indicator, besides the flames and orange light tinting the scene, are the stairs in the background, running up to the walkway along the building where we see Cloud jogging along in a PSX 2015 trailer. And here we have our first clear look at Biggs. His design looks pretty much the same and his hairstyle honors the original artwork beautifully. And here we get a great look at the cleaned up design of Barrett. The beard shading and rendering has been cleaned up and we even see individual chest hair. Combined with the overall better shading, lighting and texturing of his skin, this looks almost real. What I also very much appreciate are the visible eyes underneath his glasses, which is probably one reason why he now has less of a Blade vibe and feels more like the original Mr. T. Barrett, especially in the combination with the different voice direction. Speaking of voices, this dialogue seems to have been heavily altered.
So, what's our next move, boss?
That's easy enough.
In the original game, Barrett tells them to get out of there, split up, and rendezvous at the Sector 8 station. None of the other Avalanche members say a word. My guess is, this little exchange in this trailer precedes Barrett's lines from the original. Finally, we get to see Aerith with her eyes open. Beautiful green livestream exuding eyes you can get yourself lost in. This scene itself, while very faithful, shows a few differences compared to the original. While Aerith is still the one initiating the conversation, it seems that the player cannot choose whether to engage with her anymore. Also, Aerith offers Cloud one of her flowers without him making a remark about them first. While this suggests the absence of a dialogue choice, I think there could still be one right after this snippet. If Cloud then chooses to take the flower, Aerith will ask for one gil. Maybe Cloud could then just walk off without paying her, which she will remember for their second meeting in her church. Now let's have another look at Aerith's redesign. Her jacket now bears buckles instead of metal rings as sleeve finishes, just like in other compilation iterations. Furthermore, instead of just the two breast pockets, the jacket is now decorated with several zippers and small pockets in addition to the already mentioned rivets on her shoulders. The dress itself has also changed. Instead of the smooth pencil dress she wears in the original, the tech demo and at the end of Crisis Core, she now sports a wrinkly dress decorated with a thin bow along the waistline and bears an additional diamond pattern on the upper part. This seems to be a blend between her white-blue dress in Crisis Core and her original outfit. Lastly, the iron bangles on her wrists have been replaced by colored 3-piece bracelets. Not sure which version I like better, though the new ones do look more practical. The design of her flower basket is taken from the original intro FMV, same with the tech demo. But for some reason, the secret Crisis Core movie contains a completely different design. The only thing bothering me here is the missing shadow on her arm, but maybe that's on their to-do list. We also get a better look at her signature ribbon holding her queue in place. But something is missing. Hey! Where's the white materia? Maybe it's hidden within the ribbon knot, though I highly doubt that. Anyway, let's shift over to Cloud and his new character design, which has been improved greatly, I must say. The strongest contention from the last trailer was about his hair, which looked like a cheap cosplay wig. Now it looks way more natural in shape and in color. His face has also been reworked to look healthier and more in line with the compilation material. Especially the eyes. Where they looked more realistic and rather round in the previous trailer, they now have this anime-esque eye corner design. Another major change has been made to his body stature. He's more muscular now, less scrawny and overall looks way healthier. On the other hand, clothes and armor look practically identical, meaning they didn't redesign him from scratch. Just fixed a few things, mainly head, arms and skin. What really surprised me are the very good facial expressions and voice acting. It even has English lip sync.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Here, this is for you.
A flower?
And yes, the Japanese version looks different.
大丈夫?
Oh.
お花どうぞ
Hana?
They actually replaced the mouth animations for the English localization. And not just the mouth. It seems they recorded the whole face of the motion actors to prevent uncanny discrepancies between different mouth and face animations and to accommodate to the localized script. This can be seen in all the scenes shown in this trailer, mind you. Anyway, when we look at the background, it shows way less destruction than the original render exhibits. Unfortunately, it's too blurry to make out anything useful besides the car and the two people. Speaking of which, those look very similar to those seen in the previous trailer. I also like how NPCs keep going about their lives during cutscenes, makes them livelier and more dynamic. The last thing I want to briefly touch upon is the flower Aerith offers to Cloud. It's the exact same as the one in the reveal teaser and those in her church as seen in Advent Children. Well, duh, you might say. Yes, duh. But for completion's sake, I wanted to quickly mention it before moving on to our next subject of interest. Don Corneo's sewer pet, Abs. It presents itself in a darker shade of blue but overall shows the same details. The horns, the iron wrist cuffs, its leather bridle, the overall body frame, its abnormally large tongue, the brown furry legs, its moisty snout and the yellow eyes. But hang on, is that Mauko energy glowing on the horns? See, that's what happens when you feed your pet with Mauko energy. Abs's hunchback with the cropped horns can partially be seen, though its tail is unfortunately not visible here. Next to the similarities, there are at least two differences. One is found on its fingers. The original artwork contains filed down claws, while the remake version shows human-like fingernails. Then there are its hooves. While presented as horse-like in the original, they are now modeled after split hooves of deer and fawns. In this shot, we see the magnificent level of detail on its snout and face. The middle piece of the bridle now bears the same color as the rest. We can make out a patch of hair on its head and very unhealthy teeth in its maw, which oozes with awfully bad, green and slimy saliva during this deafening roar. And a few frames earlier, we can even make out individual muscle fibers and bristly body hair on its shoulders. Now let's switch our focus to the background, which has been heavily redesigned. The original consists of only that narrow simple path, whereas this area looks large and expansive and contains this big circular pipe opening which is absent in the original screen. That's probably where the tsunami attack originates. Right behind Abs, there seems to be an open doorway from where he most likely enters the scene after presumably ripping off his chains and bursting through the rusty door. In general, this looks closer to the artwork shown at the 30th anniversary Farewell Stories exhibition back in February 2018. What I find strange, however, is that there's no water to be seen on the ground whatsoever. Both the original and the exhibition artwork contained at least some volume of sewage. Another small detail I noticed is that walkway to the upper left. Are we able to go there or is it just decoration? In this next shot we see Aerith getting ready to fight. She still has her initial staff, the guard stick, equipped. We also get a better look on her dress, which corroborates the previous assertions. Cloud looks surprised and a little frightened here, but quickly composes himself and gets into his signature battle stance, ready to fight and win. It's beautiful. Look at that facial expression change. Unfortunately, we don't get to see anything of this boss battle and are instead thrown forward a bit to a later part of the sewers, fighting a Sahagin. Again, a very accurate redesign of the original. Although it's mostly copied from the model in Crisis Core, including the head, brown shoulder fur, shell, feet, hands, and general proportions. Only the fur on its wrists are missing. And it switched its trident for a single-piked spear. Here we see Aerith fighting on her own in the back, which allows us a full view on her dress. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the slit anymore and instead sports additional white frills at the bottom end. The loose and wider cut of this version looks much more comfortable to fight in compared to the constrictive pencil dress of the original. It looks also very dynamic while she swings her staff. Like in earlier scenes, we see Cloud's equipped materia in his Buster Sword. This time, however, both materia slots are occupied. It's easily noticeable when played back in slow motion. Now I'm curious as to where the single materia slot on Aerith's guard stick is located. Maybe here, although the guard stick provides only one slot, whereas the artwork depicts two. Still, this would be the most likely location. Again, let's check out the background. Those green power generator turbines are a new addition, as the original renders never showed such interesting details. Here we're probably rather close to the exit. even though it looks very different compared to the second screen in the original. The pipes on the back wall kind of remind me of that, as well as this green segment. This whole sewer area seems to have been redesigned and expanded upon in general. Only 2 narrow screens just won't cut it for the scope the remake is going for. From one battle right into another. This enemy design is taken straight from the chain machine or cutter machine appearing in Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. It looks virtually identical, just in full HD glory. They even included the evil face decal on its sides. This gets me thinking if other enemies from the compilation will make an appearance at some point. There's no equivalent in the original, though the closest ones are the Sweeper and Custom Sweeper, which have different feet and guns as weapons. Is this a normal enemy or maybe even a mini-boss? I think it's just a bigger single enemy, possibly a construction machine which doubles as a guardian of this place. As for where this battle takes place, I believe this is likely to be during the Sector 5 Reactor run, more specifically in the huge mini-reactor room, which we enter from another side this time around. This hall we see here appears quite large and has a similar multi-storied complex in the background, with the stairs leading up to the first floor, like in the original. They are currently blocked off, however, probably because we have no need to go up there, for our way leads directly to the reactor core, which is through a door to the left off screen. That blockade might be gone later, since that's how we're supposed to escape this reactor. Up the stairs, up the elevator, through the doors, and out onto the T-junction where the Airbuster boss battle takes place. This scene also has to take place before the sewers when comparing the stat values. Tifa and Cloud both have less max HP and MP here compared to the battle against Sahagin in the previous scene. Another cool detail is the Shinra logo on the tarps. Is this section under construction? There is also a bunch of stuff lying around back there. But what's this? Do you see this weird gadget affixed to Cloud's and Barrett's belt on their backs? I reckon it's meant for rappelling down into this area using a rope. I don't see the pipe Cloud is sliding down and jumping off of, as seen in the original, which suggests they get down here by other means, namely using those rappelling hooks. After the clipping at the beginning, here's another funny glitch. Cloud's legs in one frame during his block cross each other in a very unhealthy way. It looks as if the right leg develops another joint to wrap itself over the left leg. It's just for one single frame, however, making this criticism rather petty. Again, we see 2 materia equipped in Cloud's Buster Sword in some of the frames. I guess he re-equipped those after the train tunnel sequence. But wait, what's that on the green screen to the right? It looks like a glass flower vase full of flowers. But why? Maybe a subtle foreshadowing for the meeting with Aerith, the flower girl? Hard to say. And still more fighting. The trailer treats us with an updated version of Barrett's Big Shot with a delayed after explosion? Sign me up! It starts off with a different particle effect than in the PSX 2015 trailer, which now looks closer to the one in the original. The explosion sends physically reactive objects flying, like those pylons and the metal rods. Here we have another good look on Barrett's gun arm cover. As established, this looks like an updated design. What's also possible, however, is that each gun arm weapon has its own arm cover design, which would be pretty cool in my opinion. Right after, we see Cloud performing his second limit break, Cross Slash, and it looks more epic than before. I'm glad they kept the kanji symbol floating mid-air over the enemy. They also added more camera work to this attack to better showcase its effects. We also get another look at the equipped materia. Again, both slots are occupied. If you look very closely, the enemy is being thrown backwards straight into the fence by the sheer force of Cloud's attack. It's hard to see, but instead of facing Cloud, it now faces to the left as the back curve and its scorpion tail indicate. Speaking of the enemy, this one represents Crash Strike, an insectoid which may appear in battles between jumping off the train up until Cloud arms the bomb in the Sector 5 reactor. Which is why I believe that we're currently located on the lower Sector 4 plate before we infiltrate the Sector 5 reactor. Indicators for this are the fence to the right, the red lights, the crates and the huge open space. Things the original render shown here also contains. However, upon closer inspection, we do see an opening in the fence which leads to, well, seems familiar, doesn't it? This little area might also represent the side path next to the subway tunnel leading to reactor number 5. Cocoons and sticky webs all around seem to indicate this is the Crash Strike's habitat. One of Crash Strike's attack is called Silk, which wraps the target in such silk webs causing slow. Maybe some of those cocoons contain prior victims. And all this considered, it feels like those enemies are actually living there and attack the group because we're invading their territory or lair. which is miles more interesting than enemies being mere cannon fodder for EXP farming. This also fleshes out the lore of Final Fantasy VII's world. Shinra doesn't care much about anything except money and power. An infestation of mutated bugs within the service area of the plate's innards doesn't seem to bother them too much. But enough rambling. Let's take a quick look at its design, which is generally very accurate. Maybe it's just a dark lighting, but it seems to have more of a red and purple tint instead of green. It looks modernized but still very faithful regarding its details, however, it appears much larger than their LEGO counterparts. Either this represents their normal size or there exist smaller and larger versions of this enemy. Uh-oh, someone attacked when its tail was up. The guard scorpion here looks heavily damaged, its right gun arm hanging limp and its face bashed in. Its green face lights have even stopped working, it's that bad. As a last-ditch effort, it prepares itself for its infamous tail laser attack. There's much more build up to this attack this time around. Electricity starts gathering towards the tip of its tail, where we see energy lines gathering for a split second before it cuts away. The occasional electricity sparks around its head are another indicator for its immediate demise. However, this seems to be a scripted scene. There's no battle UI visible, meaning this takes place within a cutscene, probably right after the battle has ended. I wonder how the guard scorpion disappears. Does it just explode? Fade to red? And is this the only time we fight it? Just imagine being under a timer with the remains of the guard scorpion chasing you down, like the X-ATM-092 during the Dolet mission in Final Fantasy VIII. I'm still very skeptical about those red things underneath that platform. In any case, its design doesn't look to have changed at all. The background is hardly visible, but there are still a few interesting details around. For one, the rectangular lights flickering in the previous scene look static now. Either the other scene has a graphical glitch, or it's a deliberate malfunction of the lights due to the destruction. Speaking of, the aftermath of the battle and the missile rain is already visible in the background. Live explosion and fire included. We can also make out some sort of balcony or gallery up there, possibly part of the way back up. After the cut, we get another great look at our boys, especially Barret. There's practically no hair aliasing like in the PSX 2015 trailer, except for the very first frame. There's some ugly dithering going on for some reason. Barret's ear looks realistically pierced as opposed to the two 3D shapes overlapping each other, a definite upgrade from last time. Again, we see sweat, chest hair, skin glossiness, all of his scalp hair, and facial skin wrinkles. Barret's eyes are even better visible here, and the glasses seem to have received a slight redesign. From the little we can discern here, eyes and eyebrows seem to match with the original design quite well. It just occurred to me, Barret's younger than me. Damn, I'm getting old. And Cloud's hair looks like a chocobo's butt. Now let's take a closer look at the attack itself. The spikes on the tail end open up, unlike the static model in the original, and the hazard line describes a straightforward pathway as opposed to the horizontal swipe in the original. Of course, Cloud and Barret need to dodge out of the way. The explosion behind the pressure regulator is the result of the laser attack, not the bomb. If you look very closely, the bomb can be spotted sitting on the concrete block below the valve. There's the red glow of the timer display visible during the camera swipe, and just before the explosion, we have a nice side view of the bomb device. The big question here, however, is how the laser missed the bomb and pressure control while only hitting the area behind. This doesn't make any sense to me. Video game logic, I guess. But the floor received another redesign when compared to the Magic 2017 screenshot. What? That's important stuff! Okay, you want to see the reactor pressure control unit? Compared to the original, the main concept looks similar, but with a smaller main body, though there are cables instead of pipes on either side leading downwards. At least there's still a valve in the middle. But there are only 3 pipes instead of 5 running upward. On the other hand, the cylindrical container above the whole construct seems to be massive this time around. It's hard to see, but there are numerous massive pipes coming out of a curved object behind the valve contraption. Here, we get a very detailed look at the bomb Avalanche uses to blow up the reactor. This looks to be part of the cutscene, which starts while Avalanche is escaping to Sector 8 through the T-juncture outside of the reactor complex between sectors as the timer is about to reach 0. Red lighting shows the burning fire in the background from the previous tail laser attack. The bomb itself looks very realistic, especially the package and the wires. They most likely 3D scanned the real C4 charge to create this model. But why C4? It says it right there in the description text. Since I lack sufficient knowledge about bombs to decipher the rest of it, I made some research for you. From globalsecurity.org. The M112 block demolition charge consists of 1.25 pounds of composition C4 packed in a mylar film container with a pressure-sensitive adhesive tape on the surface. In blocks of recent manufacture, composition C4 is white and packaged in an olive drab mylar film container. Interesting is the addition of the term taggant. A science article on abc.net.au sheds some light. One very common form of taggant technology uses multicolored chips of plastic. The little chips are all very different. If they're added to an explosive, they will uniquely identify that explosive as to which factory made it, in which batch, on which date, who distributed it, and which shops sold it. So taggants can be used to track down improper use of explosives, such as in terrorism. Bad move, guys, bad move. This might be one of the evidence materials used in the investigation which leads Shinra to Avalanche. In the next shot, we see the ceiling of some unidentifiable part of the reactor crumbling down due to the bomb explosion. That additional explosion on the left indicates that many chain reactions are responsible for the huge damage this explosion causes. This scene probably happens just before the debris traversal segment shown in the PSX 2015 trailer. Now we've arrived at the juiciest scene in the trailer.
Can you bear to see the planet suffer? Cloud.
Sephiroth showing up in Midgar. Or so it seems. Anyway, the design is very accurate and he's in his typical pose, especially when looking at the right arm. He has great hair, as always, and also new dark lines around the edges of his shoulder pauldrons. Sephiroth never appears during the Midgar segment, however, so where does this take place? My guess, it's one of Cloud's trigger moments projecting an illusion of Sephiroth in front of him. It's what Jenova likes to do, showing illusions of dead people to evoke strong emotions and confuse the host. But why not the Nibelheim incident as one supposed leak suggests? All other scenes in the trailer take place before the train graveyard. The time jump is too high. The debris looks more like modern construction found in Midgar and not like Nibelheim houses. The surroundings generally don't look like Nibelheim. There also seems to be a pillar of sorts on the left and looks like a support pillar for highways. The floor has clear markers of a modern multi-lane speedway. Nibelheim is completely devoid of this type of road, neither in nor around the village plaza where Cloud and Sephiroth briefly meet in the raging fire. Additionally, Sephiroth doesn't say a word to Cloud during said meeting in the flames during the flashback. That line we hear wouldn't make sense at that point in time anyway, since Sephiroth doesn't recognize Cloud as a rival or revenge target yet. Furthermore, this sounds more like something that Jenova within Cloud would say to rile him up. Moreover, Sephiroth doesn't seem to hold his Masamune, which is another red flag for this to take place in Nibelheim. Now we can start theorizing. Could this be the new scene in Midgar with Sephiroth appearing earlier? My answer is no. The Sephiroth we follow to the northern crater is Jenova's body shapeshifted as Sephiroth, which resides in this domed tank until it breaks out after Cloud and friends got arrested in the Shinra building. However, it's possible that this is a completely new scene happening on the highway after their escape from the Shinra building. Problem with this, in their first encounter on the cargo ship, Jenova Sephiroth doesn't even recognize Cloud. Them addressing Cloud by name just after escaping Midgar makes therefore no sense. This being an illusion triggered by the Jenova cells within Cloud is therefore the most logical solution. But where does this illusion trigger? I've had a few ideas, but none of them had me convinced. Number 1. After the bomb goes off before the debris traversal shown in the PSX 2015 trailer. Number 2. After bombing their way out into the open but before the dialogue between Biggs and Barrett. Number 3. Cloud surrounded by the MPs near the train tracks. And number 4. When running down 8th Street just before meeting Aerith. While the last one would make for a hell of a foreshadowing, it still seems rather unlikely. Other people have suggested a different location, however. I'm still questioning myself why I didn't come up with this idea myself. Remember the broken freeway in Sector 5? That one consists of a multi-lane road and is already destroyed. Very fitting for a hallucination melding reality and illusion together. A destroyed freeway combined with the burning Nibelheim scene. There's even a scene taking place there after the Sector 7 platefall where Cloud experiences another mental glitch where he hears Sephiroth saying, "In my veins curses the blood of the ancients. I am one of the rightful heirs to this planet." After which Cloud mumbles, "Sephiroth?" And Tifa then asks if he's okay. Instead of fading to white and black, showing Sephiroth from behind can be a great way to elevate the significance of this scene. If this is true, the crumbling ceiling in the previous scene could very well be part of the platefall incident, since this illusion would take place shortly afterward. It's hard to tell though. I don't notice any identifiable markers as to what this shot represents. The debris is falling downward rather quickly, suggesting this is taking place in a smaller room. The construction around also doesn't seem that huge. In any case, I just hope they keep Sephiroth a mystery and don't show him and his face full on before the calm flashback. Okay, enough Sephiroth. Let's direct our attention to Cloud. His face looks a million times better than the one at the end of the PSX 2015 trailer. The phenomenal minute details like his subtle expression and mood shifts and the sweat, it looks fantastic. Maybe the lighting also helps a little. When he looks up at the start of the scene, his left eye opens a little bit earlier than the right one. Subtle but effective. And look at this image. Pure rage and conviction. There's a small detail I noticed. Cloud looks up in the first shot and looks surprised. During the Sephiroth camera pan, Cloud has his face still covered. Hopefully this is just a weird trailer cut and the actual shot arrangement of the scene follows a more logical timeline. What's left now is just the logo. It is still exactly the same as the one used in the PSX 2015 trailer. No subtitle and it still says just Remake. This indicates they are still following the same vision they had 3.5 years ago. And this announcement here, more to come in June, gives me the chills. A big presence at E3 at Square Enix's showcase and show floor is a given. We're also likely to get something at the concert, at least those who attend. We're now at the end of the trailer, but there are still some miscellaneous things I'd like to cover before we wrap up the first part of this analysis. You probably were screaming at me the whole time for not mentioning Tifa at all. Heresy! That's because she has been deliberately omitted from this trailer, save for her spot in the party UI. The only reason for this is most likely her upcoming reveal in June at the concert or at E3. And of course not to diminish the Aerith reveal. In terms of graphical fidelity, this trailer is miles ahead of the previous one. There's hardly any noticeable or distracting aliasing, with a few exceptions only noticeable when searching for them frame by frame. Furthermore, the colors and textures look more saturated and colorful and give off a less grim vibe. Remember that Final Fantasy VII contains a nice balance between serious and light-hearted and grim and goofy. I think this remake has the potential to pull that off, despite the lack of over-exaggerated animations from the original game. But here's a question: why only show early Midgar segments again? I'm certain they are saving a lot of interesting locations like the 7th Heaven, Wall Market and the Shinra HQ building for their grand presentation in June and other showings in the lead-up to the first release. A short teaser trailer shouldn't give away too much anyway, and I think there was enough content in there to keep us satisfied for the big show in June. Also notice how both in-game trailers end with Cloud's face. Even the first announcement teaser ends with a backshot of Cloud. I wonder if all future trailers will end with Cloud in some way as well. Let's wait and see. I initially wanted to compare voices, point out differences and guessing the presumably new cast, but this new video is already running long and analyzing voices is therefore better suited for a separate video. If I ever manage to find the time, that is. Instead, let's finish this video by addressing the music used in this trailer. What the heck is that music supposed to represent? I don't recognize this track at all. What is this? On the other side of the coin, the short interlude of Aerith's theme sounds very nice and fitting, soothing and beautiful. If that's how her theme song sounds in the original, I'll be happy. But the rest of this track? I hope it was made specifically for this trailer, as it does sound rather generic and doesn't evoke any feeling for Final Fantasy VII. It would fit any other dramatic and action-laden game trailer. I really do hope the presentation in June contains actual music from the remake. I cannot wait to hear it. Alright, this marks the end of the first part of my State of Play trailer analysis. The second part will focus on the battle and UI aspects only, and I do have a lot to talk about, so stay tuned for the next episode of Game Analysis. In the meantime, let us know if there are some details missing from this analysis and feel free to make corrections. Let's have a discussion in the comment section down below. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell button to be immediately notified of future uploads and don't hesitate to share this video around. This being said, thank you so much for listening in and I hope to see you again in the next episode of Game Analysis. And always remember, stay safe and take care. FFVII signing off.